we had testing button colors as one. I think that was one of the ones I originally created, and it poses a lot of questions. I think everyone, certainly in the experimentation world, is aware of the 99 shades of blue that Google have tried. And of course, essentially, I think the story was they took a flavor of all of those, and essentially it made no great difference. But I always like to push on this one a little bit, because I would say that whilst I wouldn't recommend testing button colors, there can be designs where there is a limited degree of affordance, or the CTA just doesn't have the kind of prominence that you're seeing. So it may not be button color, but it may be the size, it may be the text, or something else. It's not a definite no, but I always like to say, if you want to turn it from a red to a blue and there's a white background, contrast level's probably going to be pretty similar. If you've got currently a black button, maybe there's a hesitation there of it being disabled or something like that. But if somebody started talking about shades of a color, or changing it from sort of one primary to another, that's when I would start, maybe using the Google analogy and saying, well, if you had all the bandwidth in the world, knock yourself out. But normally these aren't the things to prioritize.
Yeah, and I'll build on that. The all the bandwidth in the world, Google, Bing, lots of these companies have such high traffic that they can afford to do a button color test. And it can and probably will work for them fine, because you think about the math behind like MDEs and calculating how long it'll take a test to run based on those changes. With absurd volume that Google gets, they can absolutely do it. And I think there's one of those things that I'm kind of on a soapbox on, is like, what's the difference between practical and correct advice? And there's that correct advice. That's not to say button colors won't work. They do, and they can. But practically, if you have like 400 conversions a month, there's so much more. Back to a previous conversation they had about prioritization, they shouldn't be prioritizing button color tests. Like, maybe if you have like a bunch of tests being built that are so hefty, and you could quickly sneak in a button color test just to try it out, and it's part of a more strategic opportunity to draw more attention to the call to action, because the research has shown that users are not finding the call to action. Like in our previous example, like maybe the sticky nav, you guys tested it and it drew more attention, and you're like, actually, this is something maybe we should draw a little bit more, because people are losing that contrast. Cool. Then that's like 5 layers of it depends to get to that point. But I think a lot of times people conflate as like button color tests don't work. They do work. It's just there's a level of practicality and prioritization. Like, if you could test into something that'll theoretically lift your conversion rate and improve the user experience by like 20%, or you could test the button color test, which, like, for Google, a 1% lift is a lot of money. But for you, for your business, 1% lift in foreign conversions probably isn't Google money.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weighing your priorities. Yeah.
Yeah. For Google, it's all about clicks. There isn't a great deal of funnel. It's like, are they going to be clicking on the title? Are they going to be clicking on the CTA? And so their sort of window is pretty narrow.